Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to our Thursday Thoughts segment when we say goodbye to the gospel of the week past and say hello to the one to come. Now, last Sunday we had the story of quote-unquote Doubting Thomas, a horrible name because the dude's name was Thomas. He had an entire identity. He couldn't quite believe that Jesus raised from the dead. I mean, who would? And all of a sudden we label him as the doubting one, as if he were particularly awful, and all the rest of us have no trouble believing every single good thing we hear in life. We know that isn't true. We talked about that a little bit on Sunday, but I want to reiterate here something that we repeat often, but we can never hear enough. We need to re-examine our definition of what it means to believe, because we have been taught that believing means knowing, that we get an external stimulus which we then understand and we perceive through our eyes, ears, or whatever. We know it in our brain, and then at the end of that, we are able to believe. The problem is almost nothing good in life really happens like that. If you think of most of the good things you have experienced in your life, you believed and or trusted in them first, and then you spent the whole rest of your life trying to figure out the implications of what that meant. The first time that happened was when you were born and you didn't know jack squat, but all of a sudden this life was thrust upon you, whether you believed it or not. You didn't have the faculties to process it, and it happened anyway. And you have spent every second since figuring out what that means. It's also true, like, remember going away to kindergarten or to high school or to college or graduating college and getting your first job. Those of you who have gotten into relationships or gotten married or had children or even gotten old, you have no way to know beforehand or to understand when it's happening what is going on. Instead, it happens. You learn somehow to trust in the process, and then you spend the rest of the time you're doing it trying to figure out how to screw your brain up the correct way to perceive it and make good come of it. Trust always comes before knowledge when something is important, and that is also true of faith. And it's really critical that we think of belief as trust rather than internal knowledge, because, as we often say, trust requires something outside yourself to trust in, another person, another being besides you in this relationship. Whereas belief only takes you, and you can believe whatever it is that you want without any context, without any connection to reality. Those two are not the same thing. And when we talk about believing in God, we are definitely talking about trusting in the not us rather than screwing our brains up in the correct way to advance us and our knowledge. Think about that in the way that you process faith, in the way you process your relationships to other people, because, by the way, this makes other people more important to you too, because they are the other. Things outside yourself matter. Think about how you conduct your life, and whether it happens more in here and everything else has to conform to what you think, or you filter it out or try to change it, or whether you really do perceive and trust the thing outside of you and follow it. That's it for this week. Next week we are going to have another story of Jesus appearing to his disciples after the resurrection, the one found in Luke 24, and we will see you then.